What is the greatest completely legal loophole you know about? You can't do this anymore either, but when the US was trying to introduce the dollar coin, they were offering each coin for exactly $1, no tax, free shipping, in an effort to get them into circulation. People were maxing out credit cards purchasing these coins for the frequent flyer miles, then turning around and depositing these coins back into their account, costing them nothing. I heard that some people got away with doing this many times, racking up millions of frequent flyer miles before they had to end the $1 with free shipping program. My dad did that. We have so many $1 coins we leave them as tips sometimes in hotels and such because it's harder to spend them. But free miles. Here in Costa Rica it's quite hard for foreigners to get a work visa or residency. However, it's very easy to enter the country as a tourist. The only requirement for tourists is that they can't be here for more than 3 months. So, instead of going through the whole process of getting a work visa, at least 80% of the people I know here with foreign blood simply drive up to the Nicaraguan border and come back every 3 months, allowing them to become what is known as a perpetual tourist. I know some people that have been exploiting that loophole, completely legally, for about a decade. I used to work for a credit processor, which is the company that handles the network your credit transactions move across. Swipe your card at a merchant. It goes to the credit processor, who determines which financial institution the card belongs to and authorizes declines the charge through them, then reports back to the merchant. Anyway, one of our clients was a major bank. One you know. We were investigating a recurring network issue that we couldn't really pin down. Every month, this FI's network would strain and overload, around the same daytime, once a month. We didn't have any errors logged that weren't a result of the strain. No identifiable cause. No processes running at that time. They weren't doing maintenance, which was just a formality since the issue was on our network. So I'm idly watching transactions roll across the big screen when it starts flooding with the same line. We got hit with something around 35,000 transactions all at once from the same source. Did some cross-referencing and sure enough we could see the same thing had happened every time the problem occurred, and always the same account. So we called the FI and explained it to them. They looked into it, and here's what they shared with us. They'd had a promotion going on for their bank card to award 100 bonus points every time someone used their bank card to pay their bills online. No minimum to that, no qualifier that the bill had to be paid in its entirety. So this guy wrote a script to pay $350 by 1-cent transactions, and racked up bonus points on his bank card. So if you had that incentive and wonder why it went away, you can thank that guy, and me for narsing him out I guess. My friend did this with the Chase Freedom card. Opened multiple cards, ran the script for single-cent transactions, and made out like a bandit before they caught on and closed his credit cards. I got married to my college girlfriend so that she could claim in-state residency and finish her degree at my university for like half the cost they would have charged her as an out-of-state student. I also looked like a very poor head of household on paper and received a crap ton of grant money towards my own degree. 10/10 would wed again. I lived in DC for many years. DC has a practice of refusing to issue parking tickets for Sunday churchgoers, most of whom don't even live in DC. This is an interesting cultural phenomenon unique to DC. Many black families moved to Maryland due to gentrification and other reasons but have remained loyal to their churches. So my car has been blocked in many times and the city refuses to do anything about it, effectively creating a religious free pass for parking violations. So one time I got a parking ticket and I filed an appeal saying that I was at a religious service, even though it was a Tuesday night. I wound up doing this 3 times over the years. I didn't win, but all my tickets are still pending appeal, and one of them is from 2003. Pretty sure the city doesn't want to confront the quagmire they have created by refusing to enforce laws based on religious reasons. I told my friends about this and several of them have done it as well. I used to work for a non-profit school that was funded by the state. There was a regulation that the school had to disclose how much the executives were paid, but there was no regulation against outsourcing executive functions. And there was no regulation against outsourcing to a for-profit company that didn't have to disclose anything. And there was no regulation against outsourcing to a for-profit that the executives owned. This sounds like fraud. I'm an auditor fraud investigator, and this sounds like fraud. This is ridiculous. This is absolutely legalized fraud. So me and my roommate both have Xbox Ones and play a lot of the same games. Besides having to both pay $60 for a game, we both set the other's Xbox as our home Xbox and continue to sign in and play on our own Xbox. So when one of us buys a game, it automatically downloads on the other. Also, gold is shared. This is on a much smaller scale than most things presented here, but I'm proud of it. My senior year in high school in Texas, 2002 to 2003, my friends and I found out that if you have too many absences, you had to make up for it during Saturday school. Well, it turns out that Saturday school is only half a day and it makes up for 3 absences. So me and 3 other friends would constantly skip school. We didn't do sports, so we had all our credits anyway well before end of the year. And then on Friday nights have a LAN party and play Warcraft 3 or Star Wars Galaxies all night. The next morning, tired as heck, we drive to Saturday school and just kinda sit and stare doze off for about 4 hours and have our absences erased. When I was in high school, our school tried using this tardy tracker system which was full of such loopholes. Eventually we realized that being 3 minutes late was marked the same as being up to 45 minutes late. After utilizing that a few times, administration was pretty pee. I don't know how long they kept using that program, but it was a waste of time and money. Criminal Barrister here. A couple of my favorites. Young man arrested on possession charge after a vehicle search. He admits possession of cannabis and gives his reply to caution, which is recorded in the officer's notebook as, "Don't strip search me." The case is an anticipated guilty plea, but at the first appearance his instructions are that the officer threatened to strip search him if he didn't admit the drugs were his. Takes it to trial on this issue. Officer denies ever mentioning strip searching the defendant. At trial, the officer is questioned as to why the reply to caution was "Don't strip search me" if the officer had never mentioned a strip search. Pretty clever to set that up in my opinion. I do a lot of road traffic work as well, and some of the points taken are quite entertaining, such as putting the prosecution to strict proof in respect of the speed limit for a particular road, and insisting upon a strict interpretation of what evidence would be permissible to that end. This one is because of my roommates. They would rate a Pizza Hut nearby us and get a free pizza. Go down, get the pizza, rate the Pizza Hut and get a free pizza. Basically they never had to pay for a pizza from Pizza Hut. However, because they aren't buttholes, they would also buy other stuff, drinks, dessert or garlic bread. Probably why they allowed it, TBH. Pretty small thing, but it's one I use really often. Stop signs in parking lots aren't legally enforceable. They're on private property and out of police jurisdiction. So the next time you're leaving Walmart at 3 AM, feel free to roll through that annoying stop sign in the middle of the empty parking lot with no possible repercussions. You rebel. Looks like these signs aren't usually enforceable. Certain states may have adopted laws to allow ticketing for private property infractions. Check your local laws before becoming a 3 AM Walmart rebel. In most of the world, children are actually allowed to smoke cigarettes. They aren't allowed to buy them though. Similar rule with alcohol. I believe there was a man in Texas, assume homeless or poor, who got a nice 3-4 bedroom home for a whole $35. When the previous owners left their suburb home, I assume a lack of payment, he paid the fee to have the home transferred to him. I believe the only stipulation was to stay 3 years and it becomes his. No mortgage, no rent, just a $35 piece of paper. Neighborhood was pretty pee. I applaud the man for his craftiness. I think the bank booted him out if I recall correctly. I bought a historic office building that used to be a school using a residential home loan many years ago. This worked because the zoning was residential. I put very little money down, had low payments, and kept the whole transaction simple. Bought it for $400K, sold it for $800K, and legally used it for my office for 4 years. I work at our outdoor market and we serve beer. We get past the laws by selling a token that the beer stand next to us happens to trade for a beer. Then they bring the tokens to us and we give them money. This cop told someone I knew that if someone broke into your house, you could kill them as opposed to injuring them to avoid an excessive force lawsuit. If they're dead, it's your word against his and he's dead and you're the victim. Flanders, come inside my house for a minute. When your pawn has moved 3 spaces forward and your opponent moves one of their pawns 2 spaces forward so that it's next to your pawn under the assumption that this means you now can take it, you can move your pawn diagonally behind theirs as if it had only moved 1 space forward and take it despite not moving to where the pawn actually was. This rule was added to chess because pawns originally couldn't move 2 spaces. The 2 spaces on the first move rule was added to make the early game go quicker, but that had the consequence of allowing a pawn to sneak past an opposing pawn, which would originally not be possible, so they added en passant. Even if someone smells like they've been drinking on before the job, we're unable to officially say so, due to the fact we don't have a breathalyzer at work. When I found that out, I was dumbstruck. At my job we have fully stocked kegerators in our break room. So, yeah, we smell like we've been drinking, because we drink at the office. If you tell them it's for a bird, you get free bread at Subway. There's 2 types of people in this world. Those that know Mitch Hedberg, and then those that need to hurry up and discover him. There are 6 ducks outside and they all want sunships. UK. Heard that technically you don't need planning permission for stuff you build on your own land, if nobody objects within 4 years of you building it. Someone stacked hay bales ridiculously high, shielding his property from view, then built a freaking castle behind it. Nobody could object to him building it because no one knew about it. 4 years after he finished, he took the hay down and nobody can take his castle away. They're still trying to though. Not as deep, but ordering a triple steak burger from Steak and Shake, 3.99 value menu W fries, then ask for it on sourdough bread and add Frisco sauce. Boom, triple Frisco burger and fries for less than a Frisco melt. I have earned over $90,000 by getting compensated by airlines. This is a simple trick that works well. If you know certain routes at your airport are always oversold, just buy a fully refundable fare a few days before the flight takes off. Usually this will be one or more of the oversold tickets. Just go to the airport and offer to give up your seat and reap the rewards. If not needed, just refund your ticket. Usually I book 12-18 tickets in one day and hit one after another up until my planned departure in the evening. I try to spread it across 5+ airlines to avoid seeing the same stuff. I fly for free everywhere in the world. Southwest has the best policy, usually $300 plus twice the value of your ticket. I have thousands of dollars of credit with all the airlines that I can't even use it fast enough. I feel like you have more of these tricks. A German company should have paid 128 million euros to the government. They transferred the company to another mother company, moved everything into the mother company by doing some restructurizing, and then deleted the old company. No money could be collected. It was in the news under the name Worst Luck. That's a funny name in English when it comes to the government in this case. Worked at a restaurant where we had a promotion during the holidays. If you bought a $25 gift card, you get a $5 gift card as well as a bottle of sauce. I bought a ton of gift cards with my own money. I got the extra $5 gift cards and bottles. Sold the bottles of sauce for cheap on a local garage sale site. They retail for $8 from the restaurant. I also used the gift cards on all of my cash tables. Customer pays with cash. I use the gift cards to close out their check and use the cash to pay myself back for the gift cards. So basically, it was a free $5 for me for every $25 gift card I bought. I also won the gift card contest we had. Be careful. A guy I worked with at a restaurant was fired for doing this with Gruppens. Wanna live in Europe without a visa or legal rights to do so? Do you want to work in a highly paid European country but don't want to bother with getting a visa? Got to Svalbard in Norway? Anyone can work or live there indefinitely without a visa. If you have a tribal membership card to any federally recognized Native American tribe, you're exempt from Obamacare's individual mandate. The requirements for membership are set by the individual tribes, and some of them are really lax. If you have one ancestor several generations back who was on the tribal rolls, they'll let you in. Then you're like me and you have a tribal membership card. Well, my dad does, so it would be easy to get one for me. But your tribe isn't federally recognized in the US. In Canada it is though. That's what you get for being on the wrong side of the French and Indian War. If you have any sort of hobby that you can show as profitable, you can claim it on your taxes. IRS will see it as a small business for about 5 years. Obviously you don't want to do this if it is profitable. It's just a backdoor way to get a little refund from a hobby. Want a handgun but aren't 21? Private gun sales in a lot of states are 18 and older, including handguns. That's how I got mine, and it's totally legal in my state, given that you're not a felon obviously. I met a man on a plane who told me his best friend is a retired pilot. Apparently back in the day banks didn't exchange small change from other countries because it wasn't worth sending all the change back, so they would sell foreign coins by the bag by weight. This pilot would buy bags of change, and when he flew to the country the change was from, he would exchange it for a lot more than he paid for it. You can gain the free voucher for voluntary bumping at most airlines by intentionally booking yourself on a busy earlier flight if you know that a less busy later flight will get you to your destination at a reasonable time. It requires some knowledge of the schedules, but there are predictable flights that tend to get overbooked all the time. I used to fly a Friday commuter shuttle every week. I could easily make my connecting flight if I took the 7 PM shuttle into DC, but I would book the 5:30 flight instead. Every week, I'd be the first one to jump up when they asked for volunteers. In 1 year, I accumulated enough vouchers and free round-trip tickets to take my wife and kids with me to Hawaii twice. Best of all, I'd always ask for, and receive, meal vouchers, so I got to eat dinner for free while I waited for the flight I actually would have booked anyway. It'd pee off some of the gate agents, but what could they do? They needed those seats. I had a summons for court yesterday. Well, it was MLK Day and the court was closed, so I guess I never have to pay my ticket now. Incorrect, sir. Had a summons today as well. Apparently they mail the new summons dates to the address on your license, or you can just call them. A professor at my undergrad was famous for his strictness and propriety. He had a handbook that he had written himself on the codes of conduct for the class that was at least half an inch thick. A real crapping diamonds type, and I hated the class, him, and everything he stood for. One of the prohibitions spelled out in very clear legalistic language was no baseball hats in class. I observed that rule to the very letter. Every day that term I wore a sombrero. Want to get out of a contract you signed with a cellular service provider, such as Rogers or Bell, or for my American friends, Verizon, AT&T, etc. A contract is a two-way street. You both have legally agreed to terms and conditions and have signed said contract to a legally binding agreement. If you wish to break the contract and cancel it, they charge you an early cancellation fee, potentially up to $500, $300 in Canada. If they change something, you can notify the ombudsman of the company, or office of the president, in writing, that you do not agree to the terms they have changed, and therefore, the contract is voided before the next billing date. An example, did they increase their long distance minutely rate by $0.01 or their price per kilobyte for data overages? That's a change you didn't agree to and it was not laid out in the terms you signed your contract for. Notify them of such and they can either honor the pre-changed price for the length of the contract, or void the contract altogether. Most of the time, they won't even respond, which means it terminates in your favor. Your contract is voided, and you didn't have to pay any ECF or similar. You may be required to return any products such as cell phones you have subsidized over the course of your contract, or pay out the cost of the phone, depending on the fingerprint in the subsidized device contract, a separate contract to the service agreement. 123 movies, Pirate Bay, KDOI, etc. They don't have any pirated material on their sites. They just host the sharing of them from other websites people. They aren't really doing anything illegal, and companies' government can't touch it, especially when they are hosted in foreign countries that don't give a crap. Not so much legal as a nice loophole. Minnesota mattresses, others may too, have a 10-year warranty against losing their shape. I know that Sam's Club will give you a refund in cash of 100% the purchase price with a receipt. No questions asked again. Other places may too. I'm on my third mattress where I return the old one and pay a little more for the next nicer model. Eventually I'll either find a mattress that doesn't lose shape or I'll have a new mattress every year forever. Save your receipt. I know that a lot of law enforcement agencies the world over have trouble getting the perpetrator if they have an identical twin who is willing to also say they did it. People have walked free because of it. Right to repair. Void the warranty because you broke open your Xbox to find the part you need is a pain in the butt. Send it to Microsoft. They still have to fix it even though the warranty states that it is void if opened, but if you opened with intent of repair they have to fix it. You're good luck with that one. My brother told me this one works but I haven't tried it, so not sure if you get a speeding ticket. Send a check for $1 more than the amount charged. They will send a check back for the overpayment and will not be able to report to insurance until you cash the check, as it is not considered a complete transaction. Rip up the check and avoid the insurance premium increase. More than $1 more ham. That'll stick it to those pigs. Also, I'm pretty sure that this is why most business printed checks will have void after 90/180 days on them. They can eventually write them off if they get lost or ignored. I have a cool one. My buddy overstayed by about 10 years in the US. Ran a company, paid taxes, no problem. But he couldn't fly anywhere obviously, and if he got in trouble with the law he could have been deported. Anyway, one day he got the crap beat out of him by a taxi driver. They tried to press charges, but for some reason they couldn't touch the guy despite knowing where he lives, works, etc. His lawyer found that he could apply for a victim of a violent crime visa. He did, and now he's legal and can exit into the country without fear of deportation. There's obviously more to this story, but that's the gist. I rented a store last year and we opened a small shop. It's in a small complex with 5 other shops. The owners of the property do not pay the bank for their loan and it gets repossessed by the bank and put up on auction. These same guys go and buy it again at auction, but with a different company. They have several. At the auction they have to come up with 20%, I think, and they pay that, but then nothing else. Yet they take the rental income this whole time. It takes about a year before repossession happens again, and they just repeat the same trick. The 20% they pay each time is way less than the rental income for a year, so they just keep on making this profit year after year. They have now done it twice since we started renting there. I don't know how long this has been going on. We spoke to the officer of the court at the last auction and he admitted to knowing what was going on, but said that they are not breaking any laws other than not paying their debt. When George Washington lived in Pennsylvania, buying slaves was illegal in the state. However, owning was not, but only for a small period of time per the Gradual Abolition Act of 1780, which said that any slave who entered Pennsylvania with an owner and lived in the state for longer than 6 months would be set free after that time. Rather than buy all new slaves after 6 months, he would send them to the Mount Vernon estate in Virginia with his wife, and after a day, they would return and the clock would start over again. Obviously not legal now, but a legal loophole then and completely secret from anyone but the Washingtons and their legal advisor. A case from the 90s in the UK. A man called Cheeseman was caught masturbating in a public toilet by 2 police officers after several complaints had been made. He was taken to court, and the law that he had been charged under was unclear in terminology, as it was from the 1800s and had old language. The section in question was that a person cannot reveal themselves to a passenger. Passenger in the 1800s when the law was made meant passerby, as the police were there on business and were not passers-by. They were not covered by the act, and Cheeseman got away with openly masturbating in front of police. Not sure if this is proven or not. Was driving 2 of my friends home from a bar one night. One of them was about to begin law school. We were exiting the parking lot and there's a side exit that makes it easier to get back to the main road. The only problem is that there is a sign next to it that says this is not an entrance. I was hesitant about going through it because police were always around that part of town due to the bar scene. My soon-to-be law school friend said, "We're not using it as an entrance, though. We're using it as an exit." Go ahead. Best use of twisting words I'd ever witnessed. It's a pretty small loophole in the bigger scheme of things, but for a broke college student as myself, it's pretty important for me. We have an IHOP on campus. One of the most filling meals it offers comes with hash browns, choice of meat, 2 eggs, and 2 pancakes. It's around $10 for the whole thing. However, my college also offers a meal plan that allows us to swipe our college ID at certain restaurants for certain meals. For example, at that same IHOP, you can get hash browns, choice of meat, and 2 eggs for 1 swipe. Getting a side of 2 pancakes is 1.15. I've abused this quite a bit, as I'm getting a $10 meal for around $2. It might not be the biggest loophole out there, but dang is it a nice one. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.